Hey guys, it's Steve. I want to talk today a little bit about like what people's concept of rich is in the Philippines because everybody seems to have a different view of what is considered rich. And be sure to subscribe to my page, by the way. um, we got in a little, not an argument, but like a discussion online, and it was kind of interesting because everybody's concept is totally different. If you talk to I talked to my girlfriend and I was asking her what is rich, and in the Philippines, and she says, "Well, when you own a house, you're rich." So I was like, "Well, that's an interesting way to think about what is rich." And I've heard that from other people here too. A lot of the Filipinos think that if you own a house, you're rich. Okay. Now, I mean, I know when they do government statistics and stuff like that, they come up with all these different amounts of what is considered rich. And somebody threw out there this paperwork about what is rich, and I threw out something, and that's what started the whole discussion was what I posted. Um, and they were saying that if you make like 50,000 pesos, you're considered rich, which 50,000 pesos is 1,000 US. That would take like 3 or 4 people in a family with average jobs in the Philippines to all contribute to that household to make that household rich. Now they're talking about households, I believe. So 50,000 pesos, that's considered rich by whomever. It didn't really get into details about like how they come up with that statistic or anything. They said that like 84%, 86% of the Filipinos live like way, 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 way below that. That like the average Filipino here probably makes like maybe 250 to 300 US a month. And some a lot less than that. They make almost nothing. I mean, some of the people here, that the money that they make working their job pays for their food, and they live with some relative or whatever. I mean, I see people that work driving trucks and work on trucks as helpers and stuff like that, and they tell me that they have enough money to do the job and to pay for their food every day. So to them, when you start talking about the concept of rich, because rich here and rich in the United States, even back in the United States, we have people living in their cars and stuff like that. I mean, there's it's a big issue now, I guess, like with parking lots and Walmarts and Planet Fitness, that there's a lot of people parking in those parking lots now because people are living in vans and RVs and cars and whatever. So to some people, I would say that rich is having everything that you need paid for each month. If you have a job and it covers everything, all your needs totally, without any wants of anything else, I would kind of consider that rich in for me. I mean, if I could go out and buy everything that I need to buy every month, everything that I want to buy every month, I would consider myself having a really good job and consider myself pretty wealthy. Um, as far as owning a house, I'm not so sure about that. That part, I mean, I know in the Philippines they consider like owning a house as a sign of wealth. You know, if you rent, you're poor. The person that's making the money is the person you're renting from. Now I rent. I consider myself not wealthy, not poor. I mean, I look at things differently than the average Filipino. I consider myself probably middle class. You know, I live fairly well, and also you have different areas here too. Like if you live in Manila or Makati or in some of those sections, you're going to be paying big rents there, or pay a lot of money for a condo or whatever in those areas. Now where I live, I pay $60 a month. I have everything I need here. I live very well, very happy. AC, fans, nice little kitchen, microwave, refrigerator, all that stuff. and I'm doing very well, you know. And I came over here with $1,250 a month. That's about what I was making. Okay, US. Over here, that's pretty decent, you know. And with that amount of money, I could afford to pay for my Pacific Cross healthcare, my electric bill. Everything was paid for. Everything was paid for. A lot of things you don't need over here that in the United States you do need. Well, in some cases, you can get away with doing other things in the United States, but you don't think about it. Like cable in the United States, you really don't need, but you want it. Okay, over here, once you get to the Philippines, you really don't want the cable because you can get it. You can find other ways to get it for free online through the internet, through different, you know, places that you can go on and find it for free. I mean, I can get Fox News over here. I can get all that stuff for free over here. But like in the United States, I think people think of wealthy as being able to have cable, have this and have that, and we pay $200 a month for cable and $200 a month for our cell phone, or $150 a month for our cell phone. And people don't tend to shop around for cheaper things because they're too busy working sometimes. And, you know, and in the Philippines, you come over here and I hear everybody saying, well, over here it's expensive. And sometimes I'm like, guys, really? Expensive? I mean, I have a smartphone here. It gives me a hotspot, you know, and it gives me, you know, I can use that as, you know, for my internet if I want to. Yeah, it's not a lot, but I mean, I have regular internet too, so I also have Wi-Fi. But I'm saying you can get away with a lot of things over here really cheap. Internet over here is about as expensive as it is back in the U.S. I'll say that. Okay, cable's cheap, but I don't get cable. I find electricity very reasonable here. I remember back in the United States, I didn't even have my AC running, and I was paying $120 a month for my electric bill, and I didn't have electric heat. I didn't have any, you know, forced hot air or anything where fans were running or anything like that. I was barely at the house, and the electric bill was like $120 a month just for lights and refrigerator and stuff like that. And there wasn't really anything big running in the house. You know, I mean, I'd have a small air conditioner in the summer running, and it was $120 a month. And here I have a big AC unit running, a 1.5 horsepower, you know, and it's a Carrier, and I pay $60 a month here. So the only thing I find a little bit more expensive here is food, and it's not in all sectors of the food market that it's expensive. I find it very hard to get beef here, or good beef, I should say. You can find beef, but you don't find good cuts here of beef. You don't find prime rib, and, you know, like, you just don't find the good cuts, like a nice T-bone steak, or, you know, any of that stuff. You just don't see it. You have to order it from Manila, and they ship it down to you in an ice box, you know. So, like, when you come here, your ideas of wealthy and rich are totally different. Because when you come here, for me, I mean, I've seen houses, and I've helped people get in. I've helped a guy get into a house not far from here. He pays about $200 a month for a 3-bedroom home. Now, here in the Philippines, that house would be considered probably a house that a wealthy person lives in. It's in a gated community. It has a pool, you know, in the community that you can use. And he had to install the AC, which is normal in the Philippines. You know, Westerners like to have their AC, so you install your own AC. He has like a rooftop place where you can set up a picnic table up there and all that. And his lifestyle is a little bit, you know, different than mine. He has more money coming in. He obviously wants different things. I mean, I would eventually like to move over to that area too, you know, someday if possible. It's a decent area to live in, and somewhere around there, or in an area similar to that. And I don't have a problem paying $200 a month for a 3-bedroom home, or a nice two-bedroom home that has nice nice plants around it. It's a fairly new home. It's decent. It's clean. It looks like an American home, like a Florida type home, And my home, I mean, like I said, I pay $60 a month. I've made this home into what it is for me, to make me feel not rich, but happy here. And to me, that's rich. Like when you're happy, you're rich. It's not just a money thing, and it's also happiness comes from your richness comes from family too. And a lot of us as Americans over here in the Philippines, are us expats. There's a lot of discontented expats here. There really is. I mean, I run into expats every day, and most of them are very unhappy here. They're not happy. They're not happy with their host nation. They're not happy with the people here. They get frustrated very easily, and they forget that they're outside the United States. I mean, yeah, I get a little unhappy with some people, but I just go with the flow. I mean, if you just got to let it kind of roll off, you have to have a duck's back in the Philippines. You do. Otherwise, you're going to become one of these people like some of the people in Subic Bay. Subic Bay seems to have the most people that are discontented of all the expats, I think. Subic and Angeles, for whatever reason. I don't know if it's because of the drinking or maybe something's going on up there that I don't know about and I'm missing, but it seems like the people up there are the most argumentative and unhappy people, and no matter what you say, you're always wrong. And I noticed that in all the groups and stuff like that the Subic Bay people and everybody from all the other islands and all the people that I talk to all say Subic Bay is not the place to live, and neither is Angeles. And I have to agree with them that I would never want to live in either one of those places. And I heard Baguio's becoming a little bit like that. And I myself, I stay to myself around here. I myself stay pretty much to myself. I don't hang around with other expats that much. I find that there's too many problems. I try to stay away from expats as much as I can. I mean, there's a few people I talk to and hang around with a little bit, and sometimes it's their girlfriends that are the problem, and sometimes it's them that are the problem, and sometimes it's a little bit of both. But a lot of the expats that I've been around here, they're very argumentative. But and one of the things I noticed is that there's like a competition about money between them, and that has to do with the subject that we're on about, what is rich, and one of the things I noticed is the people that make the least, not the least, but like kind of in the middle, I'll say, or the least, seem to be okay and happy. Like they're okay, they're all right, like it's. And I notice when the people get money, they become like the real jerks. Like they just they're not the type of people you want to be around with. Not all of them are like that. I mean, I have friends of mine that have lots of money and stuff like that, and they're decent people. I mean, I have a friend of mine down in Cebu, and he's decent. He's got plenty of money. I mean, but and actually, like he would be like the perfect person to talk to, like what is rich, like about this subject, because of this subject coming up on some of the expat pages, and he lives like I do. Okay, he has the only difference is his housing is a little bit different. He pays probably I think it's like $600 a month for his housing in a high rise. I believe it's a studio, and he has like a workout room and a pool, okay, on the roof. So I mean, his lifestyle is obviously better. Is Rich having, like a nicer house and living a normal lifestyle? I mean, maybe, but to each his own. I mean, Warren Buffett, he lives in his original home. He paid almost nothing for it, and he still lives in that home, and he doesn't live like a billionaire. He lives like a regular guy, and So the idea of rich is just a concept, and in each person's mind is a different level of what rich is. For me, if I had $50 or $100,000 in the bank, and I had my retirement income that I have now, I would consider myself pretty well off. I don't know if I consider myself rich, but I consider rich when you have enough to cover everything and have an emergency fund put aside that'll take care of you for the rest of your life. That's what I consider rich. And I think that's why a lot of Filipinos think, well, if you own a house, you can always borrow against it or move out and rent it out or whatever, and you'll have income. So I think they consider that rich. That's why some Filipinos say rich is when you own your own house. But if you don't have a job and you can't feed yourself, but you have a nice house, what good is a house? So I mean, everybody's different, but also the pockets of places in the Philippines where your money goes further can also make you kind of richer. And I notice with expats, they tend to go to like Cavite province because it's much cheaper to live here than a lot of other places in the Philippines. I notice the rents here are cheaper. I notice people that go to Cebu, they're paying Cebu and Dumaguete, they pay a lot for rent out there. I notice their food costs are a little bit more too. So I mean, I don't know how their electricity costs are or anything like that. I'm not sure how that works or whatever other costs they have. But I notice that in the Cavite area, you can live very reasonable here, and the costs are very reasonable. The other thing here is like using like these cards that's like Krispy Kreme will give you. Like you buy a dozen donuts, you get 6 free or something like that. Things like that help you, like to keep your money. A lot of people here are poor or middle class because of the fact that they don't spend their money wisely, and a lot of expats are spending it drinking and spending on women and stuff like that, and that's where their problem is. That's why they never see wealth. It's blowing out the door. It's going it's going in the wrong hands. And some of us here, we're just happy having a family here and living a decent life and stuff like that, and going to church on Sunday or whatever. And that's my lifestyle. That's the lifestyle I choose. And yeah, I spend a little bit of money every now and then. But I also try to save some money too, and I put a little bit of money in the bank and towards savings and other investments that I have. And I try to stay with stuff like that, so I have other income. And when I hit 67. I can get my Social Security on top of my pensions, and then I'll have even more money, and I can travel more and stuff like that for a while before I get too old, hopefully. And I'm lucky because I get to retire at 55. So like, and I knew when I retired I wouldn't be retiring rich, but when I left the United States, I knew that I couldn't stay in the United States and ever be rich, because I was hitting that age where, I had been wealthy before. I had money before. I owned an eBay business, and I was making a lot of money, and I drove a Land Rover, and I was living the good life, staying in hotels on weekends, all up in all over the place, just getting away on weekends with my family and stuff, and then I'd gone through afterwards. I was having some issues, with divorce and stuff like that, and a bunch of other different stuff without even getting into it, and my wife, and it killed me because I just gave up on that lifestyle. Because when you reach that lifestyle and you're there, it's like, oh, I'm here. Okay, great. So rich. Is it really something to aspire for? Everybody seems to think like wealth is something to aspire for, and sometimes I'm not so sure it is, because I'm happier being like middle class than being rich sometimes. Because I remember when I had lots of money, I had lots of responsibilities. I had a lot of responsibilities, and it took up most of my life. And sometimes it caused anxiety and grief and sadness, and like, oh, wow, I wish I had some time to do stuff. I was doing stuff, but I always had things on my mind that were keeping my mind way too busy. But I found that when I simplified my life and brought it down to a level where I was happy, that was my richness. That was my richness, And when I got to that point, I felt like I had made it. And when I got to the Philippines, I felt like I really had gained everything that I had aspired, that I had chased after all my life. I always wanted to retire at 55, but I wanted to retire very well off. I'm not very, very well off. I'm pretty well off. As good as can be expected. Like, I live a decent life. I'm happy. I do have a disability. It does affect me, and I consider myself rich with family. I consider myself rich that I'm in the Philippines. I consider myself rich that I have a decent church. I consider myself rich that I have good friends. And I consider myself rich that the friends that I've made are always there for me. And I talk to them quite often. Some friends I talk to maybe once or twice a year, but I know that they're always there and they always got my back. And a couple of friends really have my back, and back home, without mentioning their names or anything like that. I mean, they help me with things back in the States, and we only talk once or twice a year. I try to take care of them, during Christmas and stuff. And that's my richness, is those people, and I think in the Philippines, I think richness comes in the people here. The people are the people that are rich. It's not about money. When I go to church, I meet some of the richest people in the world, because they have happiness. They have true happiness. They don't have money and stuff like that, but they have the biggest smile on their face when you come into church and they see you, and they give you a hug or whatever, or they shake your hand or whatever. And those are the people that really got richness. They tend to be happier here in the Philippines. They smile, they joke around more, and no matter what hits them, they make it through it, because they're used to having issues in their lives here in the Philippines. And like, I see some of the expats come over here, and they're like I was mentioning earlier, and they're very discontent. And sometimes I get frustrated too. I walk into McDonald's and they give me the wrong order 5 times in a row. It gets frustrating. I don't insult the people. I let them know that I'm unhappy. I don't call them stupid or whatever, like some Americans do, because it's not that they're stupid. It's just they just don't understand your English. We have to kind of look out for our host nation and understand it, and have like a little understanding with these people. And I know it's rough and tough to sometimes do that, because you want your food, you're hungry, but remember, those people want to be happy too, and yelling at them and treating them like that is not going to help the situation. But anyway, I mean, that's my thoughts on what richness is in the Philippines. There's no number on richness. There really isn't. I think richness is happiness in the end. I really think that richness is happiness. So in that case, am I rich? Yes. I'm happy. I'm in my happy place. And I think a lot of Filipinos, if you ask them if they're happy, they'd say yes. A lot of them would say yes. Some of them would say no. But a lot of them would say, if you look at them, you can tell that they're happy. They have a good family. They get looked after. If they get sick, a bunch of people chip in and help them in the hospital, stuff like that. They have a different way of doing things here in the Philippines than we do. And that's why, like, to put a number on richness or something like that, if I had to put a number on financial richness for a Filipino, I would say $50,000 would be right about right. 50 or 60, I mean, not 50 or $60,000, but pesos. I would say 60,000 pesos. 50 to 60,000 pesos would put most people here in a good spot. Okay? Financially, most families would be fine with 50 or 60,000 pesos a month. Okay, that's a good spot for a Filipino to be in, to be considered rich to them. Okay, I'm not talking like driving a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or something like that. Some people would call, oh, that's middle class according to statistical things from the government. Yeah, it probably is. You know, yeah, you're right. You know, they're not driving a Mercedes. Okay, big deal. Who cares whether you're driving a Mercedes or a Toyota Corolla or a Jeepney for that matter? You know, it really doesn't matter. You still have a way to get around. You know, and that's the thing about richness. You know, like, what's the difference between whether I'm driving a Toyota Corolla or I'm driving a Mercedes or a Ferrari? What's the difference? Is there any real difference? It's just the name brand of the car and the fact that you're going to pay more for oil changes. You know, and if you get in an accident, you're going to be paying a lot more too. So, I mean, all that stuff is all relative. It really doesn't matter. It's just craziness. But anyway, guys, be sure to subscribe, okay? Because I'm gonna be doing some more videos pretty soon. I'm hoping I can do a video more about street foods again soon. I'm not sure when. I did the thing up in Manila. There wasn't too much like street food out there, so I couldn't really do much on street food. We were mostly in areas where there was clothing and stuff like that. So I did like 4 or 5 videos of up and down the streets of showing the people and things like that. But that's the story about that. I'm gonna try to find a place I can do a thing on street food. I want to do a video also about Mall of Asia. And I want to do one on Panda Express, because they just opened a Panda Express up there, which is an American Chinese food company, and they have like American style Chinese food, and I wanna do one up there, show their menu, show the new restaurant. It's the only one in the Philippines right now. I heard they're opening more. I'm not sure where, but I want to do one on that also. So guys, be sure to press subscribe. We'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching.